and you've been doing so much. I've been busy as all get out. I think our time is coming.
I was going to say, our time has come.
I really
yes.
do. We want to talk about some
Right.
of that as a couple of old veterans who've been
Right.
around you longer than I think, actually, and certainly in the big leagues. I've never been in the big show, as they say. But we can talk about that, and what you do now is so good, and so good to see you again.
Thank you.
And welcome very much to Conversations. A pleasure to welcome to the program a dear friend of mine and friend of the world. That's Kevin Saunders, and he has a very interesting life story to tell, which we're going to ask him to share with us a bit in the beginning. And it only gets more interesting, it seems to me, as the time goes on. And Kevin, welcome really very, very much to Conversation.
Thank you, Harold, and I agree with you. I think that in some ways it's probably more exciting right now than it has ever been before.
Well, it depends on where you sit in terms of the show, I guess. And you look at it, but if you're in a context where you're interested in alternative ideas than those that are being, let's say, so I'm anxious to see the HBO thing that's on tonight, this Thursday that we're taping. They're going to be the people who did The Sopranos.
Oh yes,
Clever. They're going to be showing the advertising industry,
that's
which I think is really
right.
good, because the whole of media has been around
Right.
this advertising type, but that's another story. But if you're in a thing where you're interested in alternative thinking and things, maybe intellectual thinking, that sort of thing, in terms of multimedia, I think this is the best time to be around. And we've both been plowing or trying to plow those fields for a long time.
The possibilities are, in one sense, almost unimaginable. In fact, they are unimaginable because we do not know exactly what the digital revolution is going to do next.
And we're right in the middle of it.
Right. So we're riding a wave, and that is very exciting.
You came originally from Australia.
Originally from Australia.
Did you ride the waves in Australia? Isn't there
Yes,
good
but
surfboarding over there?
It was, no, I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Okay,
I didn't
I wasn't
actually.
sure.
Real surfing, no.
Yeah.
I wish I could. No, I never have. Never did that.
Yeah.
But yes, the idea of riding a wave is interesting, because I think that's what people in media, and particularly the more explorative people, yourself being an exemplar.
Yourself.
And I.
You've been exploratory with some of the best people. We're going to talk about some of that, but yeah, go ahead, yeah. And others, and the idea of public access, the idea that the people are going to be able to have a meaningful say, possibly, in terms of the ability to get at new ideas and so forth. It's never been as rich as it is now in terms of potentiality.
Right. Orson Welles once complained about the problem with movies was that it was the only art form in which the artist couldn't afford the tools.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
true. If you wanted to make a movie then, you needed, television, or you needed a movie studio, and the whole structure and the distribution and all of this.
Absolutely.
Enormously expensive. So was television, so it still is television, although that's rapidly changing. And the implications of that are great. The YouTube which you use to such advantage.
Well, it's only been here for a couple months, it seems.
I know.
Yeah, just a little thing that appeared. It was like out of the blue, manna from heaven.
Right.
Yeah, and the implications of it's all coming out of the computer lab. Stuart Brand will remind us and so forth.
The digital revolution.
Yeah, it's all coming and it has consequences.
Digital.
Yeah, and it's got consequences that can't be ignored in a sense, because it's coming almost exponential as we begin to look ahead, I think. And the line is going ever faster. It's almost going L-shaped.
Toward the singularity, which is a subject which you might
or it might be going toward Teilhard de Chardin talking about the mega point, a qualitative transformation, the evolution of consciousness. I mean, we live at a time of amazing awakening in terms of the
I think both are true. Both those things will occur. The singularity, as they've spoken of it, and the Chardin concept.
He was great, Chardin, and so was Kurzweil in his own right. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, who was our governor, the Democrat that was so famous for so long? Can't remember his name now. The governor of New York State for so long was going to become Democratic for president. People wanted him to. Cuomo. No, not Cuomo.
No, you're the local.
No. Yeah, but no, it'll come to me. All right. He's famous. He's just amazing liberal and everything. He wanted to they had.
You're not talking about Lindsay, Mayor Lindsay.
No, not mayor, governor. The governor. He was there for a long time, and he just got voted out by Pataki and everything. Who was there? Major Democratic figure. A lot of people wanted to run for president. So it's really ridiculous. It's slipping my memory. It'll come to me. He wanted to nominate for the person of the century Teilhard de Chardin.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
As a
how deep and
philosopher.
insightful.
Yeah.
Intriguing idea. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, a politician who thinks that way, wonderful.
Yeah, great
Uh,
politician, a
uh,
liberal, great Mr. Liberal, and it'll come to me and everything. But anyway, that's it. But listen, why don't you share a little bit, Kevin, your own background, because you're from Australia originally, and you've been in television since forever almost, in a lot of interesting positions. Do that, and then we want to talk, and we got a clip, that sort of thing, about what you're up to now and so forth, and we'll weave all this talk into that as well, while that man's name, Mario Cuomo.
Mario Cuomo,
Mario
yeah.
Cuomo, of
Yes,
course. I mean,
Cuomo is
so-
the only person who could have thought of to shut down.
Anyway, I'm not
Yes.
sure on that, but I think it was that he made a vote for Chardin, which is, I think, good for a politician to do that. But share your own background, please.
Well, no Australian politicians I can think of thinking in terms of Chardin, or were not then. I'd gone about as far as I could go in Australia.
You were born, raised in Australia?
Born in Australia, then went into television, I went into broadcasting very early when I was 20 in radio.
20.
Before television had arrived in Perth where I was born.
Right.
Everybody told me about, television,
Yeah.
that you must go and do that. So I went to Sydney and Melbourne, and then ended up at a ludicrously early age, the anchorman on the news.
For Channel 7 or something?
For Channel 7 network.
That was a national network.
That's right. So
that's like being on CBS or something.
yes, it was.
Yeah, right.
And I had nobody knew how quite what it was
Yeah,
that we
right.
were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and the I was astonished at the experience of suddenly at the age of 24 being an anchorman,
Yes.
and the perception of the anchorman as some kind of
Authority figure.
godlike authority
Yes,
figure.
right.
And
And it was only little old you, huh?
it struck me when I got a call. I don't know if I'm going to embarrass somebody. I got a call at the middle of the night, about 12:30 at night at home. It was the Prime Minister calling to complain about something I had said that night on television.
I'll be darned.
I mean, I read what they gave me.
I
was a
rip and
puppet
read.
at that
Yeah,
stage.
right.
And so I brooded on that a long time. I mean, what are the implications of this? I mean, even the Prime Minister
Yeah.
thinks that, I know all, and I determine what goes on and have this power.
That would have been in the very early days
Very-
of television itself.
In early days of television.
I can
itself.
remember back, Kevin, we're about the
Right.
same age here. I can remember coming back from grade school, I was about 5 or 7, no, 10 years old, 8 years old, and having in my mind, having heard at the school, we had a radio program called Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, and I had heard that you were going to be able to see, he was jumping on the backs of alligators in a jungle scene or something like that I had heard that you were going to be able to see Jack Armstrong jumping around on the backs of alligators in his adventures that had only been on the radio. It was what was television, which was to come. And I can remember watching Test Pattern before there was television.
Yes, people watch Test Pattern in wonder.
Yeah.
Right.
And was it the same in Australia when you were?
Yes, extraordinary phenomenon, and although we then.
I mean, that's all that was on Test Pattern.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
For a
You
while.
watch it. Yeah, right.
Waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
So it evolved pretty much the same as it has in this country, except
I
that the
suppose.
budgets were so vastly different.
Yeah.
And when I came to America and saw the incredible scale of operations here,
Yeah.
I became very excited about it and ended up coming to America. I was the anchor on the news in California on a station KTLA there.
One of the network stations?
No,
no.
we're on a local
Yeah.
Los Angeles
But was
station.
an affiliate
It was an affiliate.
of ABC, NBC?
No.
No.
It was owned by Gene Autry. The station
Gene
was
Autry.
independent station.
Yeah, okay,
Owned
yeah.
by Gene Autry, one
Okay.
very, very rich man.
Yeah, right.
And then I was brought to ABC TV here for Eyewitness News.
Okay.
And
You were science editor or something?
no, I was. They didn't know what to do with me because of my accent. So
yeah, but
I,
it's a rich accent. It's almost British.
yeah, so I became
that sounds like
cultural
Gielgud or
affairs commentator,
Oh, cultural affairs.
which meant movie reviews.
Okay.
So
all right, that's important. Yeah.
I saw every movie for 5 years. I saw every play for 5 years.
That's good training.
And
What a great beat. Yes.
Well, I finally I was really eager to depart. I was
You're
suffering
still
a
in
kind
California.
of mind rot. No, this was in New York.
There's in New York. Right.
And so and then I went back to Australia briefly. Was disappointed.
How long had you been in Australia, Channel 7?
About 10 years.
10 years, that's a long time. 24, 34?
Yeah.
You came here
Yeah.
when you were about 34?
Yes.
Okay, right. That's kind of long. You cut your teeth. Had you traveled much
A little.
from Australia, or
Yes,
has it been more
yes.
local thing in that?
No, I got out, a couple of times a year. I got to, around
Yeah,
the world.
yeah.
And
And
in
your
the-
program was carried nationally in Australia?
yes, the last program I did was a national kind of. Well, it was called A Current Affair. They have
Wow.
the same name here now.
Right.
But that was based on the first Current Affair was an Australian program,
Was it really?
and it
Okay.
was a magazine program.
Right.
I
Well, you
had-
would have been well known then.
Yes.
In Australian
Yes.
society, people would remember
Yes.
that. Well, it's nice to have an honest-to-God, bona fide Australian
Yeah.
celebrity sitting
Well, it's
here
amazing.
right on my
It's
set.
amazing
Yeah.
how quick they forget.
Oh, yes,
if you-
yes. How quick they are to forget.
People today, there's a whole generation who don't know who Walter Cronkite is.
I know, it's hard to
And
imagine. Yeah.
television, you fade very quickly.
Yeah.
There's
Like
probably
showbiz, yeah.
probably a generation that doesn't know who Dan Rather is.
Yeah, I'm afraid that happens. People, they fade,
Yeah.
Warhol,
Well, the
15
news,
minutes of
the
fame.
news does. The
Yeah.
news is over.
Yeah.
Every minute.
That's right, like it's a mall.
So it's there and it's gone, and
Yeah.
it leaves no residue. It's like a movie.
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart will be Humphrey Bogart forever.
No, but I was
And,
thinking that, one of the things that happened, we've got about 500 channels on our cable system now as we look at television, and they have more and more. There's really some good things, documentary work and everything is done. And, it's all they have this concept in philosophy, the Akashic record, nothing's ever lost.
Right.
And that stuff's going to be recallable because you see a program and it really is knockout interesting, really well done, really serendipity kind of beautiful edit things that happen and everything, and you see it and then it's gone, but it's all there and it's going to be recallable
It is
in
going
an
to be
educational sense.
Right.
With like we need a Library of Congress kind of being able to recall all of that multimedia stuff that's going seemingly just into the Akashic record, but it is being saved somewhere and will be able to be recalled.
Right.
I thought of that the other day.
Human memory now
Yeah.
has been recovered,
Uh-huh.
and anything that happened anywhere, whether it was a microphone or a camera, is going to end up on YouTube.
Makes a difference if it's a microphone and a camera. Marshall McLuhan used to say radio was like a hot medium. Television's much more cool, and that it's multi-sensorial. So we're getting back after thousands of years of only having really the alphabet in order to put down the record. And Homer didn't
Right.
want to let the poets, or was it Homer or Socrates, didn't want to let the poet into the Republic because they said if you write it down, it will create forgetfulness
And here's
in
right,
the
by the way.
learner's mind,
He's right.
coming out of a literate society of storytelling around the campfire.
Well, the
And
people,
we're getting back to that kind of multi-sensorial perception the way we were in the Serengeti plain 200,000 years ago.
well, it's an option.
It
The
is an
options
option.
are open.
It's going
For
toward
people who are
holography, yeah.
people who are curious
Uh-huh.
can find out anything
Yeah.
in a way that they could not before.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everybody will be well informed because not everybody will ask questions.
Right.
But again, Plato asked the right questions, and the universe will reveal all its secrets.
Okay.
And a good reporter's credo there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
okay, yeah.
so
yeah.
we are in a situation now where whatever you ask, you can find the answer on the internet.
It is getting more and more able to do it. The
The search
search
engine-
options
the
are
search
going to get
engine-
more sophisticated,
Right.
easier,
Right.
and so forth.
Right.
So it's like a revolution in information.
Right.
Uh-huh. It's like there's 100 trillion cells in the human organism. They all interconnect through DNA with one another and so forth.
Well, Tim Leary used to say that there are more interconnections possible in the human brain than there are atoms in the universe.
10 to the 10th power.
Did you think about that?
I think it's 10 to the 10th power.
So
Huh.
yes, and what we get, in some way the harnessing of the digital
Yeah.
instruments
Yeah.
to the human brain
Hmm.
are going to produce we know not what.
I know.
But we can speculate, and we already see some extraordinary things happening. We talk about radio.
Mm.
Even radio is being recovered now on YouTube.
Yeah.
There are programs that have simply, this is a radio broadcast from
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Orson Welles.
Yeah.
His
War of the
famous
World, yeah.
His famous broad. You can get that on internet.
Yeah, you can get Gangbusters,
Right.
and Jack Benny, and all that stuff. You can
Right.
recycle it all. It can all be brought back through and everything
Right.
like that. That's really, and it's only becoming more and more all the time. If you're interested in transformation or comprehensive inclusiveness or intellectual concerns. So it's very optimistic in that sense. It's been seen, the new media is always seen as like an entertaining thing as compared to the established media. We're very connected to the concepts of literacy and to the book. It's been the thing, and linear thinking, which comes out of a phonetic alphabet, kind of stringing everything out that way. We're getting back to an all-at-once electronic kind of world, like a difference between baseball and football. Baseball is one thing at a time. Football, boom, there's a happening with a lot of interrelated connections and so forth. And so the consciousness effects of the existence of the media, McLuhan said the medium is the message. It's more important the existence of the medium than the message that the medium's carrying in terms of shaping consciousness. Do you think there's something to that?
Well, they are. I'm not utterly convinced that McLuhan. I don't. McLuhan
You're not utterly convinced.
No, I think he was made a provocative and interesting.
He was an interesting fellow.
Insight. I think that I don't know what he would. I'm sorry he's not around. He would undoubtedly have something interesting to say about
he
the
sure
digital
livened
age.
up the time in which he lived.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He certainly understood a lot about broadcasting and television.
Yeah.
The digital age is something else again.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart Brand again. I endlessly quote him. We're going to spend the next 100 years just thinking of things to do with limitless bandwidth.
Well, that's interesting.
And we're approaching that now.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
And the other thing is, he also said, no one has worked out the economics of information.
Right.
And whoever does, he said, will make $1 billion and get a Nobel Prize. So that's something to work for.
Well, Kevin Kelly, they have people who do that. They do that. The economics good, but all right. I wonder if we go back to your coming. We were chatting before we started, and you said you found, like, we're in public access now, and we're using YouTube, and we're here putting stuff out and everything like that. We have a fellow who's coming over, going to join us, used to work in the network. She had 22 people on the crew that was doing it. It was very complicated. You were telling me when you first came to America, you went in, you had a camera guy with you, and you went in. Maybe you could share that with me. You were just sort of talking about the difference between what you found in the network situation when you came from Australia with a cameraman who was also your sound man.
We were covering an event in Manila, the so-called Manila Peace Conference with Lyndon Johnson. And
for Australian television?
Australian television, for the network. And our team was a cameraman and me.
Sounds like a public access.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And in fact, the mayor's trying to get a thing going over here where you can't go out and shoot. Have you seen that?
No,
there's an idea that you're going to have to get a permit and $1 million of insurance to shoot on the streets of New York City now.
But what? I mean, everybody?
Yeah, no,
anybody?
Yeah, well...
Even with your own home camera?
It's there. It's something we've got to really keep an eye on. Never mind. But it sounds like public access. The guy...
It's a mistake and impossible to enforce, so I hope that is a...
Yeah, it must be some sort of a security thing they got going or something. But anyway, it might be the result of the fact you got public access people going around asking embarrassing investigative reporting type questions.
Yes, because that's right. More and more, it is becoming a civilian enterprise, the people,
or a citizen,
and citizens are creating, well, as this network itself is a citizens network.
Yeah, and the people are supposed to understand that media is a matter of the pros, not the citizens. You are a passive viewer of what the advertising agencies want to put into your consciousness.
Yes, it's very important.
You're there to be shaped,
it's a great
not to shape.
Great revolution to hand the power to the people.
Anyway, so you arrived with your
I arrived
crew,
with the two-person crew.
Yes.
To see how the networks, the American networks, handle the same situation. I asked, I said, where are the American networks? What about NBC? I said, I'm supposed to talk to somebody there. And they said, oh, they're on the 14th floor of the hotel. And I said, but which? They said, the 14th floor.
Yeah.
And
they had the whole floor.
They had an entire floor of the hotel
right.
for their crew, their backup, and their supporting staff,
their hairstylists,
and everything was there.
Everything,
And I saw an enormously different scale. Partly because, well, not partly, but because, of course, the advertising revenue of a country that has a population of only 1/10 the size of America has budgets of only 1/10 the size of America for television.
Yeah, but if you had a budget 1/10 the size of a whole floor in the hotel, did you have those kind of budgets?
No, even that.
You would have been in pretty good shape.
Didn't even have that.
No, didn't have that. Well, it's just a matter of scale.
It's taking me all that time to realize
that you were being ripped.
I was being screwed. Yes. How's that? But anyway, the American experience was approaching its lavish peaks in the great days of the network, which were in the mid-70s. They were big because that was before cable TV came along, before the VHS revolution, before satellites and so on.
Almost before video tape.
Yes,
Peter Goldmark invented videotape. It was only kinescope.
Yeah, everything was shot on 16
Talking about
millimeter.
recording things in the Akashic record, yeah.
But with the sudden the fragmentation of the television audience, so the economics of that,
with
cable, and now with everything, and now with the internet, young people spend more time in front of their computers than they do in front of their television sets. And that's why the network's ratings, their news ratings, had been in decline ever since the late 70s. And they're not coming back.
From the late 70s?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That was the beginning.
Even as you get a
it was beginning of the end of the great network sort of domination.
Yeah, it was when the idea of cable access happened. Some citizens got together and said, let's set some channel capacity aside, production and distribution for the people.
And this is
instead of just the pros.
Possible in part because, again, the
that
economics.
was a harbinger of what's to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, McLuhan, we shape our tools, then our tools shape us. The tools now are light, cheap, readily available,
and moving ever
easily
more.
used by the people.
Yeah, by the people. Imagine that, the people. Whoever heard, you can see the Whigs in Versailles in 1789 saying, the people.
That's right.
Who wants to think anything about the people? It's, we have it.
And
that kind of a world has been the one we
It is a marvelous thing, and perhaps just in time, because one of the important things, which I don't think is much discussed, but I think has tremendous implications, is that for the first time in human history, the people as a group, putting it in simple, crass terms, are smarter than the governments, the government leaders, and their advisors.
Right, and they're certainly on to something, as Bobby Dylan used to say, blowing in the wind.
Right.
In terms of the zeitgeist, or in terms of the ontology, or the collective whole. And, you know, you know what I mean? And they've been mostly led around like sheep by the leaders.
Right, but there was...
Or harassed.
Until recent times, the people were generally illiterate. It was only the elite that could read or write.
Right.
And now it's starting to reverse that with the incredible instruments of communication.
Right.
A community of people, concerned citizens, a self-selecting elite of concerned citizens around the world are coming together locally and globally as a force, as a new superpower. And
in interlinking with others.
That's right.
A collective quality to it. Yeah.
They are a networking entity, which draws on the smarts of tens of millions of people.
There's books out about the wisdom of the herd.
That's right.
Yeah.
The smart mob.
Yeah, the smart mob, that kind of thing.
Right.
And they're smarter than they think. And mostly they've been just dismissed by the so-called leaders throughout history. And we still have a gang of people leading things by and large on planet Earth who do not have a vision that encompasses the people. The way, like in DNA with the human organism, 100 trillion cells, they all matter.
Right.
Instead of just a few cells that have led everything throughout all of history. James Joyce called it a nightmare. It may be a real democracy that's coming, involving the whole of the body politic and the ecology and everything in an omega point kind of thing like Chardin was looking at. And it'd be a privilege to be alive after 200,000 years of human history, to be alive at that moment of transformation if we're at that point, or approaching it.
The idea of a cyber democracy in a wiki world.
Yeah, wiki world, yeah.
The idea of Wikipedia is in some ways a fascinating model of what people can do, just being drawn together on the platform of the cyber revolution, and becoming, again, to quote Arthur C. Clarke, the modern means of communications, he said, are shaping a new central nervous system of all humankind.
Yeah, it's all an extension.
And that's happening now.
The technology is all an extension of consciousness into the environment. We uniquely are able to do that as a species among the creatures, I think. And we're coming to a point. We've been here 200,000. The singularity idea that Kurzweil and others talk about, that's an interesting thing, because there's been a series of singularities that have occurred, like 13.7 billion years ago, there was a singularity called the Big Bang.
The Big
That
Bang.
was a singularity.
That was a singularity.
Of great dimension. I mean,
The appearance of DNA on the planet, that's another singularity.
when did that occur? I don't know. 4.5
Was
billion?
it the jump from, what is it, prokaryotic, eukaryotic life?
I don't know that.
One
I
of
don't know
those.
that. Yeah. I know 500 million years
But
ago.
that was not a trivial event.
No, but there are a series of singularities.
Right.
And the vast majority of the species that have ever existed are extinct.
Right.
Although there's a great variety now. And I wonder, do you think we're going to be talking about atomic energy and the atomic clock? You tell me the atomic bulletin scientists have put it back to 5 minutes now.
They moved it
Zero.
ahead. They moved it ahead
Moved
2
it
minutes
ahead.
from 7 minutes to 5 minutes.
Most is quiet. And what was the
this year.
closest it ever got?
I believe it got to, I'm not sure of this, I think it got to about 2 minutes during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
63.
Yeah.
Really? That was when it got the closest?
Yes, I think so.
I was pretty worried about when
Right.
the cruise missions were being put into Europe. You know, remember we got 1 million people in Central Park in Haiti. They wrote that book, The Fate of the Earth,
Right.
Jonathan Shell. It was fantastic. We're going to get around to that kind of
Right.
thing. But we have all these singularities and that sort of thing. And I mean, it's not just the cyber thing. The cyber thing has to do with information and that sort of thing. But it's a whole development of technology. Because you got the steam engine, 1976. You had an industrial revolution, railroads. This thing all came. Steel, invention, that kind of thing. It's a whole movement of transformation at the hands of ourselves with our technological capability of making the environment different than in an Eden-like sense most of the creatures confront the environment. We make, Gordon Childs wrote, man makes himself or the world. You said you can make the environment into which you can realize the full potentiality in a way that is not capable of other of the creatures. You know, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
Somebody once said it's only limited by our imagination of what we're capable of doing. We have a capability of making the world sing in a way that's not been possible throughout all of human history. At the same time, we have the possibility, apparently, Michio Kaku tells us, of obliterating the entire species and possibly a great deal of evolutionary life
Much
on
of
this
life,
planet.
much of life indeed.
Yeah.
That's right. And the challenge now, challenge of our age, is to you know, these are products of human ingenuity and skill. The control and abolition of these threats are a matter of human political organization and will and intelligence.
The weapon system.
The weapon systems.
Which have been the leading edge of technological exploration for most societies.
Carl Sagan said that the irony is that the ultimate result of science and technology has been to booby-trap the planet for destruction. He used to say, again, Sagan used to He used to say that the reason that you and I are able to talk here now is because 20 minutes ago, Presidents Bush and Putin decided not to launch their nuclear weapons.
He couldn't say Prince and Putin, but he would have.
He would have said.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Bring it up to date. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
So
that's poetic license. Yeah.
That was Sagan's insight. And yes, that's the reason that you and I now, or anybody else here who's listening to this, is able to listen to this. The only reason you can listen to it is because 20 minutes ago, Putin and Bush didn't launch the weapons. And that's a ridiculous situation.
It is indeed. And they're going on hair trigger alert.
Right. Both America and Russia have each 2,000 nuclear weapons on hair trigger alert.
Right.
Why? And an incredibly perilous situation, which indeed is the subject of a documentary which I'm hoping to talk about because it's coming up soon. It's going to be screened on Hiroshima Day,
the 6th of August,
which is 6th of August. We're going to screen it. It will be screened by CUNY TV 3 times.
Oh, good. On Channel 75
right,
locally.
10 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, and 10 at night.
On what day is that?
That's going to be on Monday,
the
August the 6th.
That's the day of Hiroshima?
That's Hiroshima Day.
Right, all right. Yeah.
And on the same day, we have a trailer which I hope we can show shortly too.
Yeah, we're going to.
But I'm working now getting a Russian version of that.
Okay, good.
Toward the next Hiroshima Day next year, when with a little bit of luck, we're going to have it in all languages.
Really?
The program will be in all languages.
All languages?
Well.
No.
I'm going to ask.
That may not be so impossible.
I'm anticipating here, and perhaps I shouldn't, and who knows, I should at least have consulted the people before I mention it. I'm going to reach out to Google to see if they will take it upon themselves to use their new translation systems.
Absolutely.
And to test it as here's a program that really should be in all languages.
I saw a program in I'd love to meet Sergey Brin.
Yeah.
Brilliant fellow, put that together.
So he's
but
Russian.
I saw,
he may have
yeah,
a
I know he
special
was from
interest in
Moscow.
this.
My friend just came in
Right.
from Moscow and everything. But I saw him in an interview. It was really interesting, and he said most of the effort that they have is to have computer-based systems for translating the languages of the world into each other.
Right. And
they want to get it down to where it can be poetic and philosophical and nuanced.
And people,
would that be a good thing?
A very sensible. Well,
It would be. Would it be
it's
good
a
or
good
bad?
thing.
Is it good?
It has one possible drawback, or it has been suggested, that people will not bother to learn other languages, or will stay with their language and not learn the language of even their host countries.
Well, how about that?
because they'll have translations.
Think it through. That's a big thing. No, they had it down. If suppose they get it, and everything's going to be down, and they're heading to carbon 60. They're going to have molecular computing basis of at a molecular. It's going to go through the bloodstream, and it's going to be ever more beyond Moore's law and all that sort of thing.
Right.
But if they got it down, you could have a thing that could be a chip on your tooth, or a chip. And you speak in English.
Theoretically, that is
and
so.
it's just
That
no.
is so.
And it could come out Swahili, or it would be heard in Swahili.
Yeah.
Now that would be, or
I mean, the
Lakota,
the
or
social and
whatever language. That would be a hugely important thing. Maybe help save the languages.
Right.
Because the languages, particularly the Amerindian languages, are being lost very rapidly.
Right. So it may preserve languages.
Some people think
it may.
And culture, maybe.
Well, culture and language are very closely bound up.
Yes.
So it's an incredibly complicated problem.
But would it be a
problem
good
if
thing if we could get to that?
Problem it be.
Or would people say, well, no, if God meant us to talk the languages, He would given us 1,000 languages in our brain, or something, or like they used to say about flying. And see, there's a lot of people who have an anti-technological bias. That we're the ones who are fouling things up. We are a blight upon the universe.
Right. Yes.
You know,
the evil
and
of
the
human,
abilities.
yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And they distrust leadership because leadership's been so much at the business of killing the other people.
Right.
And they're heading for the abyss now if you see things in a certain way.
Well, one of the interesting things about talking earlier about the new polity, the
people,
citizens,
the people, the people, that they really have some meaning and power.
They are emerging, I think, as a group, but it's a different kind of group. It is a leaderless elite, I think. I think the idea of the leader is itself possibly it is passing historically.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, maybe there is, because another great mind we talk about synergy, or Fuller, Buckminster Fuller was another one, and he called everything synergetics, and it was synergy. And synergy, he used to give a talk to a couple thousand people, intelligent, and he would say, anybody heard of the word synergy? And no hands would go up. That would have been not that long, a few decades ago. Now it's on every ad agency's lips,
Yes.
But it's the behavior of systems unpredicted by the sum of its parts.
Right.
There's something more than the resonance. There's something more than the sum of the parts of a, let's say, maximally engaged system, which is a resonancy that interaccommodates you to another level of relationship and pattern between systems. Something more. There's a resonancy. And you can't know what it is in a time frame. Like, for instance, if we're coming to the time where we're going to be maybe in touch with the universe, let's really get liberated, you get humanity. I just had a talk with the cab driver today coming over. I saw Jimmy Carter on television, and he said, he was asked, do we live in an elementally just world? And Mr. Carter said, absolutely not. Of course not. We live in an inherited plutocratic world where the assets are all owned by a few. The prerogatives of being able to have really free choice, other than being subservient to people who own the right to tell you whether you're going to have something to eat or not, are in the hands of a few. And it is not. We don't live in a just world. But if we get to a point where we have a world where everybody, let's just assume we had a world where everybody's able to read not only their full biography, but their full potentiality. which is very limited now in terms of the potentiality for achieving it. If we do that, and we get a liberated humanity, there would be a resonancy that will inter-accommodate us to a universe transcendent to what we've been throughout the human experience, if you can think of that. That the connection with the cosmos will be a resonancy of a liberated humanity. That may be reaching a little far, but that's sort of like the essence of the omega point concept, and we may be living at a time of liberation of the individual cells that make up the human society and the ecology with it, which it is, which we haven't been able to do because we haven't had the technological capability of bringing that about.
Well, an interesting example, I think, or at least touches on this, a challenge that I'm currently facing. For a while now, several years, I've been pushing the idea of sending a message on a radio telescope to Alpha Centauri, the closest star,
light years, I think.
4.1 light years away.
4.1, yeah.
Visible only in the southern hemisphere, southern celestial hemisphere. As a residue of my experience in Australia, I had friends there in high places who were good enough to arrange for the telescope at a place called Tidbinbilla in Australia, which has line of sight directly to Alpha Centauri.
Oh, really?
And they said, yes, we could send a message if you want to, but they said we have to get permission from NASA because we're part of the NASA network.
Right.
So I don't know if NASA's going to be available for this, but I now nurse the possibility doing something which I think would be really interesting to do on Earth Day. You know, I do the Earth Day thing there.
John McConnell.
Every year at the moment of equinox, the spring equinox, we ring the peace bell at the United Nations.
1970, John McConnell got that started.
That's right.
1970
That's
is
right.
year one in the evolution of the human experience. I wanted to
and he
say
did it with Margaret Mead.
Margaret Mead and Bucky Fuller.
And they were right. Margaret Mead, I think it was one who said that it is the only truly holy day. It has nothing to do with the birthdays of messiahs or leaders or religions or it's a naturally occurring phenomenon.
Geophysical event.
It is a planetary event.
Yeah, and it's not
it is
man-made.
a cosmological event.
Yeah, right. That is true.
And it's going to outlive us and whatever. But it is an interesting marker event. And will be an interesting time to send the message.
Now, what is the message?
The message is
move over.
No,
we come in war.
It is a 90-second message.
Okay, what's it going to say? What's it going to say?
Which already has.
We got to know. Has it been written?
Yes, it
has.
Who
wrote the text?
Carl Sagan was involved.
Oh,
in it.
good. We are on good.
This was sent from the world's largest radio telescope at Arecibo in Puerto Rico, and it was sent unofficially by Frank Drake and a group of other astronomers at the time, and it was a 90-second message in digital format. If you listen to it, it's just for 90 seconds. If you're smart enough to translate it, it comes out as a series of dots and white and black dots, from which you can draw a picture, which is a little stick figure, the coil of the human DNA, the double helix, the placement of our planet in our solar system, and various and the carbon atom and so on.
Does it have a ballistic missile with atomic warhead?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I just wondered.
No, it's an important point because when I started pressing the idea, I found some resistance to it from some of the people in SETI, particularly
SETI being the group
the
reaching out for
search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah, right.
It's currently headed by a woman called Jill Tarter.
Okay.
And she was giving a talk at Stuart Brand's Long Now conferences, which I commend to everyone. The best
Long
thinking
Now,
going.
good site too.
Great site and great conferences. His Long Now seminars are in,
really good,
required listening.
Yeah. Whole Earth catalog. Yeah.
One of the talks that he had there about a year ago was from Jill Tarter talking about what the state of SETI is. And when she spoke about the idea of sending messages, she said, well, she did not think we yet were ready to do that. We, she said, have no right to do that while we're still engaged in war.
Right.
Good point.
And we are.
And we are.
And we are now.
So therefore...
we're still in the same old pattern, the nightmare of history.
And things change, and things can change very quickly.
Well, yeah, that's true.
If the mayors for peace,
yes,
who are involved very actively in the anti-nuclear movement with a thing called their 2020 vision headed by the mayor of Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And he has argued that we could and should and must get rid of nuclear weapons by 2020.
Yeah.
That's his time frame. I think it could be
2020
done.
sight.
And it's in sight.
Uh-huh.
So if we could by 2020...
Well, 2020 is perfect vision.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
If it's a nice...
Yeah, right.
Nice, iconic kind
It's
of
beyond
date.
May in 2012, right?
And it's just before the singularity, if the singularity is going to come.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But 2020 is time enough to have arrived at a level of not just sentience and skill as a species, but also a level of common sense and civility, exemplified by getting rid of nuclear weapons and by declaring war illegal, which is something that some people are talking about trying to do with the World Court, getting the International Court of Justice in The Hague.
You spent a lot of time there, yeah.
To offer an opinion that war is illegal. It could be, you know, it's not going to change things overnight, but it could be a turning point. And I think if we can get a world in which weapons of mass destruction have all been dismantled, and we have declared war illegal in principle and fact, that might be an occasion to celebrate by sending the message to Alpha Centauri.
That's really interesting, yeah.
So
that's really interesting. And in fact, listen, one of the problems is, Kevin, particularly speaking with you, we always run out of time. We don't have enough time. And we've got a clip, right, that you brought in?
Right.
And we actually pull it up from the internet, right?
That's right.
And we want to show, because it's a piece of the thing that you're going to be doing
That's
with
right.
the thing.
It's a 4-minute, 10-second promo of the film People versus the Bomb.
You put it together.
Showdown at the UN, a documentary I made at the 2005 Non-Proliferation Treaty Conference at the UN.
Very good. And you're working with Alice Slater and other people,
involved.
a lot of other
A lot of people.
Aaron Tovish, and there are other people that are involved in this very interesting kind of thing. And it's 4 minutes, so why don't we set that up? I think they got to set up in the booth so they can show that thing, because it's touching upon some of the existential questions confronting us.
When it plays, because we're putting it through another system, the movement of the frames is a little bit slow and jerky.
Yeah.
The audio is fine.
Yeah.
But you'll see what the program's about. You get a sense of what it is.
Okay.
And if you want to see it later, you can go to YouTube and just put in UN and Showdown, the 2 words. It'll bring it up.
Okay, good.
But
well,
let's have a look at it.
Let's see if we can set that up and run that now. Then, please. We're talking with Kevin Saunders, and we're going to show that piece of footage of the 4-minute piece of footage. So run that now, if you can, off the computer, George. Hope we can call it up. Okay, okay. There we go.
They need to push it to stop.
Well, the universe is waiting, and we push start.
If we push start.
Push start toward saving the universe. There we go.
In 2007, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists moved the doomsday clock 2 minutes closer to midnight. It now stands at 5 minutes to 12.
Since the advent of the atomic age, with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the world's peoples have sought the elimination of nuclear weapons. To that end, the member states of the United Nations signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Yet still there are thousands of nuclear weapons and no final agreement on their abolition.
The big item missing is non-proliferation and disarmament. This is a real disgrace.
I consider this to be the most important conference the United Nations has ever held.
But it is the emergency action to ban nuclear weapons. Our mission is to have all nuclear weapons eliminated by the year 2020 and within the framework of the United Nations.
Thousands of nuclear weapons remain on hair-trigger alert in the U.S. and Russia.
2,000 are on hair-trigger alert, ready to launch on 15-minute warning by the decision of one man, the President of the United States. This is a very, very dangerous situation, and the Russians presumably have essentially the same number of warheads and the same procedures.
I want to make it clear that I believe Iran and North Korea should not obtain nuclear weapons, nor should anybody else. But those two states are the flashpoints off of a volcano. The volcano is the existence of 34,000 nuclear weapons possessed by the nuclear weapon states, most in the hands of the United States and Russia.
The weapons per se are dangerous anywhere, anytime. If you look at the U.S., there are lots of weapons on hair trigger alert, and the same applies to Russia.
There was an obligation on all powers that possess nuclear weapons to take meaningful steps to reduce their arsenals with a view to their total abolition.
What the message sends to the rest of the world is that the U.S. has no desire to live up to its disarmament commitments.
The possibility of terrorist use of nuclear weapons combined with the keeping nuclear weapons on alert, this double danger, I call it.
It has become a real danger for to the continued existence of the human species. Now, the first step to prevent it is to remove the instrument which can lead to such a catastrophe. This is the reason why our immediate objective is the elimination of nuclear weapons.
Former commander of the American nuclear fleet in the Pacific, Admiral Noel Geiler, once said, "The way to get rid of the bombs is to get rid of the bombs."
Good. Nuclear weapons are a creation of humanity. They are a product of human ingenuity and human political structure. If they're the product of humanity and governments, they can be resolved by humanity and governments.
And with new leadership, I think the United States can lead the way to the fulfillment of Article 6, which is part of the bargain underlying the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
We have the majority of the global population behind the vision for a nuclear weapons-free world.
People will work through mayors, through parliamentarians, through friendly governments. We're not going to wait for the next 5 years for this NPT review to come around.
The struggle against nuclear weapons is a fight we can win and must win. So let's just win it.
Let's hear it for the Mayor of Peace.
Okay, that's really good. That's a promo for a longer
that's the promo.
piece, and the whole piece can be found at the UN site. Maybe give it again quick. I think we don't have it at the end. Give it again quick, where they can go on the internet to get the whole piece.
If you, we're getting a little bit of echo here.
Yeah, we're getting echo, so put it down. Yeah, they got it.
The
two-man crew. You
yeah, two-man. If you go to YouTube and you go to a search on YouTube, put UN Showdown, and that will take you straight to that.
It's interesting. If it's on YouTube, you could also go to Google, and Google has a video tab now. So you go to Google, you do video tab, type in keyword UN Showdown, and it'll come up, I presume.
Yep. Should, yeah.
That's everywhere in the world.
UN Showdown bomb, yes. It's amazing.
UN Showdown.
Yeah. UN Showdown.
That's it. That's it. So there'll be. So that's there. They can do it, and then you're going to have this thing at on the 6th of Hiroshima doing that. That's really interesting. I can't think of a more important question confronting mankind.
Yeah. I'm also suggesting that in the promo, if you read the material, that broadcasters, public access broadcasters, universities, stations, and so on around the world, are welcome to take it down, download the Google 1-hour version, which is up online.
How much do they have to pay to get the rights to do that?
No, it's free.
Is it free?
It's free.
Free, ladies and gentlemen. Save the universe from destroying itself, and it is for free from Kevin Saunders and Company.
That's it, yes.
That's an unsolicited commentary
in
by
fact,
my...
we have in the credits of the program, people are welcome and encouraged to copy this DVD.
Copy left.
Copy this DVD and distribute in any way and all ways possible.
Yeah.
So
yeah, by all means. Yeah.
And so the means of distribution have now become so accessible and so cheap,
and becoming more so all the time.
Right. And
it will be becoming more so all the time.
So the empowering, the way in which the digital technology is empowering people, individuals, is truly amazing, and destined to have profound sociological and political implications.
The idea that if we could talk about that, that's the most important thing confronting man. At least that's what you and I grew up with. I don't know if the youngsters or something coming along seem to think it's all over. you know, what's his name? Fukuyama wrote a book. It's the end of history because we were fighting against the Soviets. I think he has. Yeah, he's coming around.
Right.
But he wrote the book, and it was part of the neocon thing and everything. That we had this titanic battle between socialism and capitalism done won. We've won. We've beat them. The Soviet Union is. I got a domestic product of about comparable to Portugal now. And so everything's okay because the good guys, us, have won, and so everything's fine. And that's an attitude that seems to be, or one of not having concern with this question that informs so much of our adult life. This question was the main one, is that we apparently do now have the capability, which we've not had historically, of destroying the whole species with the weapon systems that we've been intimidating each other with, and has been leading the technological extension of power and all that sort of thing throughout history. And that's something brand new. Bucky Fuller and others used to, we couldn't do it in the Second World War. Just think about it, where we were born. We were impotent in the sense of our ability. We were trying, Dresden, firebombing, that sort of thing. We were trying to kill each other just as hard as we could, but we were impotent in a gestating sense or something like that. But we reached that line. We apparently crossed that line along about most of the people that I talked to or looked or read. We crossed that line where we have the ability to destroy, apparently, it's a modeling, of course, the species about the year 1970.
That's right. Yes, and that's when the number of by the early 1980s, the number of weapons had climbed to 60,000.
Right.
It's now down to about half that. But still, I mean, why do we have any more at all? The number of problems.
No, but if I may, Stephen, that there's been some with nuclear, you know, some trading in and that, you know, that kind of stuff. But there's other, and Kaku was here. He mentored with Teller. And I asked him that. He said, absolutely, we have the capability. There are other things. There are germ things. There are other things that have been developing. The destructive capability that we have developed with our ingenuity and so forth is there to where apparently that holds. That is now, as Mr. McNamara said, at the hands of one person, we could destroy the whole species. Now, that's something that's brand new in the evolution of universal consciousness. And the extension capability of consciousness itself in the universe. That when will it ever wake up? What is it that will wake us to the fact that we live in a time of a singularity in the making now? And then, if I may, the enormity of that fact, that existential fact. And then more on the other side, rather than saying, let's be good, I mean, our spiritual leaders said, let's be good. Let's beat the plowshares, even the swords into plowshares and all that sort of thing. Let's be good, and let's just do away with the things that are bad, do away with it and everything. But what has changed in the existential reality of the zeitgeist or the ontology, the existing system, that makes this time different than all of human history, where we've been with great alarming regularity beating each other over the head with the latest technology in order to gain power? What has changed that makes possible a world other than the nightmare that James Joyce calls history, that is currently on the books heading in that direction to destroy the whole species rather than the adverse side of that destructive scenario? What makes it different so that we have the capability of doing things differently than we ever have? One possibility, we have transcended material scarcity as an ontologic reality, which is never mentioned. And all of the economic and political organizing assumptions that are tied into that are assumed by default as to be absurd, and it's never mentioned. That's one thing that Fuller and others would have said. But I'm asking you, what is it different now on the positive side, not the destructive side, but on the positive side, that makes possible the transformation of the whole human scenario?
Access to information.
Okay.
And the emergence of the non-governmental organizations, the civilian sector.
You are the NGO representative.
I am an NGO representative.
Yeah.
And the NGOs now in greater numbers than ever before and growing. And
civic society,
civil society, organized the people and the ability to communicate through their networks and to remain informed and to become better informed than governments.
But what do they need be informed of? We have leadership now. We have leadership now that does not have a vision of what the future requires.
And the people
We do not. It has not emerged. Where is the thing? Like, for instance, my suggestion is it possible that we have actually modeling transcended scarcity as an ontologic reality? The way we form capital, the way we distribute income, the context within which social systems, they've all grown out of a situation of scarcity with fighting for scarce resources. If we have transcended, that's an alternative perception that could be put out as a model, and it never is, or there's no alternative that is now the capability. We have a capability to destroy. What is the capability, the full realized capability of a liberated context, and what has changed that makes that possible in order to lead the assault upon the outdated systems by which this planet's being run now, is what I ask.
Smart people getting together.
Okay, all right, like maybe in public access.
And in ways that were not previously possible. Were not possible when the people couldn't read. Not possible when the people couldn't communicate. Now we have the internet, which short-circuits all the power structures and elites of the past, who, you know, they tried to keep control. They were against the printing press when it first came out.
That's right. They only let Galileo off the hook about 10 years ago.
That's right. That's right.
Because you're upsetting. All of our institutions are authoritarian. Our educational system, all of our institutions, senior vice president, it's all training people to fit into it. We do not have the notion of an individually liberated individual within a system where they have the means to lead their own life the way they want to, rather than what a system tells them they have to do. We need Frederick Douglass. We live in a slave system in terms of the way the planet's organized now. We got to get out of that before we're going to realize any kind of a reason for changing, it seems to me.
Well, it would be very good if the NGOs could, the idea of the World Opinion Forum is as a service for the NGOs, modeled to some extent on the BBC or C-SPAN, but in fact something much more than that because of the digital phenomenon, the incredible amplification of the flow of information and the exchange and the new community that is emerging rapidly and soon will take over the world.
Is it have a promise of liberation? There's been a talk of, we do not live in a just or liberated world, and the people who claim to lead the world do not have a vision that could lead to that because it doesn't fit into the institutional structures of the institutions that they head up. And we got to challenge that somehow. It's going to come out of things like public access or the kind of things you're trying to do. It seems to me to inform the mass in order to do it, and the people that lead the world now are going to be lost leaders. They're going to be the last to see. But they're going to be part of it, but they're last to. Where are the intellectuals that are providing an alternative ontology?
They are there.
Where?
They are around.
Who are they? We should put them together. I mean,
yes, and they are cohering. I think in cyberspace.
Okay.
In this
it's like an autodidactic university.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I think will emerge in the next 20, 30 years is something that William Owen Thompson once called a Gaian a Gaian politique.
Well, you're helping to bring it about, brother. And
Thank
I mean, it's there. We just brought the question up and everything. We're going to have to do much more. You got to get over here and do some